Welcome to the second lesson of the Business English module called Telephoning. It is advisable to do the lessons from this module on computers. If you do them on smartphones or other smart portable devices, you can just zoom in so as to see all text and exercises properly. In this lesson, we will focus on the basic vocabulary and phrases about telephoning. You will read a dialogue and then you will write your own. You will also learn when to use the present continuous tense and how to do it in positive and negative sentences and questions. Finally, you will get some useful tips on entrepreneurship relevant skills. We believe this will be helpful for your future entrepreneurship initiatives. Now, let's start with a dialogue between Anna, a young entrepreneur, and Professor Rogers, Anna's professor from the School of Law at the university. Read the dialogue to learn what they are talking about. If necessary, pause the video. Be careful when reading the dialogue. Try to remember how Anna begins the call, how the secretary asks Anna to hold the line, how Anna introduces herself to Professor Rogers, how Anna introduces the topic, how Professor Rogers expresses that he is not available at the moment, and how the call ends. You will need this information for the exercises later on. Now let's see some basic vocabulary on telephoning. To hold on means to tell someone to wait for a short time. To connect is to make it possible for you to speak to someone else by phone. You are through when you are connected. Line is the connection to a phone system. To call somebody means to use a phone to talk to someone. To call someone back is to phone someone again after some time. Urgent refers to the needing attention very soon, especially before anything else because of its importance. Now it is time to exercise. Enter the missing words in the text. In red are all words missing from the text, but in random order. Put them in the correct places. If necessary, pause the video. You can see the correct answers back on the slide 3. When we look at the dialogue, we see that the sentence, "This is Ted Rogers speaking," refers to something that is happening at the moment of speaking. So, when do we use the present continuous tense? We use it for something that is happening at the moment of speaking, for something which is happening before and after a given time, for something which we think is temporary, for something that is changing, growing, or developing, for something which happens again and again, for something which is new and contrasts with a previous state. In these cases, we are thinking about the present. We also use it to say that something has been arranged or planned. In this case, we are thinking about the future. However, we use it to tell a story or summarize a story from a book, film, or play. In this case, we are thinking about the past. Now let's see how to use the present continuous tense in positive and negative statements and in questions. Let's take the basic verb to read. In blue, you see the positive form of the verb. In green is how we do the negative forms. And in red is the way we ask questions. Be careful about the inversion of the auxiliary verb to be. Am is are, and the subject pronoun when asking questions in English. The auxiliary verb to be, am is are, always goes before the subject pronoun. Also notice that we add ing at the end of the verb and we omit e at the end of the verb. Example, write, writing. But we keep y. Example, say, saying. Now let's move to the next part, listening. Listen to the telephone conversation between Anna and Professor Ted Rogers. Note how Anna begins the call, how the secretary asks the caller to hold on, how Anna checks if the person she wants to talk to is free, introduces the topic and ends the call.
Is Professor Ted Rogers there?
Just a moment, please. I'm putting you through. He's online now.
Ted Rogers is speaking.
Hello, Mr. Rogers. Anna Radina is speaking.
Hello, Anna.
Are you busy now?
No, I'm not busy now.
Are you still reading your exam papers?
No, I'm not.
I want to ask you a question. What's the legal procedure for being an entrepreneur?
What kind of business are you planning to do?
This is not clear for now.
Where are you planning to do your own business? In Bulgaria or in another country?
This is also not clear now.
Anna, I'm recommending to think what kind of business you want to do and where. The legal procedures are different in different countries.
Thank you for your recommendation. I'm thinking about it. Bye.
Bye.
So, listen again to the telephone conversation between Anna and Professor Ted Rogers. Then complete the following sentences. If necessary, pause the video. You can see the text on the slide 11 and check your answers.
Is Professor Ted Rogers there?
Just a moment, please. I'm putting you through. He's online now.
Ted Rogers is speaking.
Hello, Mr. Rogers. Anna Radina is speaking.
Hello, Anna.
Are you busy now?
No, I'm not busy now.
Are you still reading your exam papers?
No, I'm not.
I want to ask you a question. What's the legal procedure for being an entrepreneur?
What kind of business are you planning to do?
This is not clear for now.
Where are you planning to do your own business? In Bulgaria or in another country?
This is also not clear now.
Anna, I'm recommending to think what kind of business you want to do and where. The legal procedures are different in different countries.
Thank you for your recommendation. I'm thinking about it. Bye.
Bye.
Let's see what phrases Anna, secretary, and Professor Rogers used in their telephone conversation. Try to learn them as they will be helpful to you in real-life situations. To begin a call, you can say, "Can I talk to Professor Ted Rogers? I would like to speak to Professor Ted Rogers. Please, if Professor Ted Rogers is there, is Professor Ted Rogers available?" In very informal situations, suppose that you're a close friend of Professor Ted Rogers, you can say, "Hi Ted, it's Anna here," to begin a call. To ask the caller to hold on, you can simply use "just a moment," "hold on," "sorry to keep you waiting." In formal situations, however, you can use "could you hold on," "do you mind holding on," "would you mind holding on," to ask the caller to hold on. To check if the person you want to talk to on the phone is free, you can simply use "Are you busy?" "Do you have 2 minutes?" "Are you free to talk?" Please do not forget that if the person you want to talk to is busy, he can express some reasons why he cannot take a call. Some reasons for not taking a call are "I am driving," "I am not in my office," or "I am just getting on a bus." To introduce the topic, you can simply use "I am calling," "ringing about your appointment" in informal situations, or you can use "I was just calling, ringing about your appointment" in formal situations. Lastly, to end a call, you can use "talk to you later" and "bye." So here you can see the telephone conversation between Anna and Professor Rogers, and check your answers from the exercise, of course. 2 days later, Anna calls Mehmet to tell him about the telephone conversation that she made with Professor Rogers, but unfortunately she cannot reach him. Now listen to Mehmet's voicemail message and Anna's leaving a message to Mehmet. Note how Mehmet creates a voicemail message and how Anna leaves a message to Mehmet.
This is Mehmet speaking. I'm sorry, I'm not answering your call at the moment, but please leave a message. Thank you.
Hi, Mehmet. Anna is speaking. I'm trying to reach you, so I hope you receive this message. Please call me back. It's about the telephone conversation with Professor Rogers. Professor Rogers is recommending us to think what kind of business we want to do and where. Are we meeting with our friends next week again to discuss these? I'm writing emails to our friends to ask when we are meeting and where. We need to talk urgently. Bye for now.
Now listen again and put the right words in the gaps. If necessary, pause the video. You can see the text and correct answers on the next slide.
This is Mehmet speaking. I'm sorry, I'm not answering your call at the moment, but please leave a message. Thank you.
Hi, Mehmet. Anna is speaking. I'm trying to reach you, so I hope you receive this message. Please call me back. It's about the telephone conversation with Professor Rogers. Professor Rogers is recommending us to think what kind of business we want to do and where. Are we meeting with our friends next week again to discuss these? I'm writing emails to our friends to ask when we are meeting and where. We need to talk urgently. Bye for now.
Here you can see Mehmet's voicemail message and Anna's message to Mehmet, and you can check your answers from the exercise. Here again you can see some useful vocabulary and phrases about voicemail message and leaving a message. Note that some of the phrases are used in more formal occasions, while others are used in informal occasions. Try to memorize these vocabulary items and phrases because they will be useful for you in real-life situations. Now let's move to the writing part, where you will practice how to write a telephone conversation. In the reading part, you read the dialogue between Anna and Professor Rogers. If necessary, go back to that part to recall the dialogue. Now it is your turn. The questions on the slide will guide you through the process. When you write a telephone conversation, you think about how to begin a call, introduce yourself, greet the person that you are talking to on the phone, ask if the person you want to talk to is free, introduce the topic, listen to what the person you are talking to is saying, and end the call so as to make strong ties with the other person on the telephone or start working together. We wish you good luck. In our previous lesson, we shared you with the names of some countries, nationalities and professions as some helpful tips on entrepreneurship relevant skills. Do you remember them? In this lesson, we like to share with you numbers, days, months and seasons. To be a good entrepreneur, it is important to know numbers, days, months and seasons. We use them not only in our social lives, but also in our business lives to great extent. In our real-life situations, we tell other people our phone number, passport number and ID number. Notice that we normally say numbers one by one when saying our phone number, passport number and ID number. Please do not forget that we say 0 or O for the number 0. Also, keep in mind that there are some differences between British English and American English in saying telephone numbers. For example, for the telephone number 315-666-8807, while British people say 315-362807, American people say 315-666-8807. Another important difference between British English and American English is that British people say mobile phone, while American people say cell phone. In real-life situations, we use numbers, the names of days, months and seasons when telling other people about when our birthday is. Example, my birthday is on June 15, 1990. When we want to make an appointment with a friend, example, are we meeting at 2 o'clock this Friday? When we're talking about arrangements for events at a time later than now, example, we are having a staff meeting next Monday. So we came to the end of this lesson. Now you know the basic vocabulary and phrases about telephoning. You also know when to use the present continuous tense and how to use the present continuous tense in positive and negative sentences and in questions. You have practiced writing your short telephone conversation and you have improved your vocabulary about numbers, days and months and seasons. We wish you good luck and are looking forward to seeing you at the next lesson.